All right, all right, all right, let's do things. So I am Sarah. I tried not to be crazy about slides in this one, but look what I managed to do. Hi, I'm Sarah. Y'all know me. For the one or two people signed up who don't know me super well, I'm a business coach. I do one-on-one coaching, I do small group coaching, and I do stuff like this when my coach tells me to do fewer workshops, I do more. Inevitably, the minute I agree to someone to do fewer like off the cuff things like this happen. This is how it works. And I do not enjoy hiding the best stuff, so we do workshops with them. Today is about, oh, picture in the way. Getting from idea to done. So in this case, this actually means something really specific. And I want to sort of set the grounding here. This is really the template in here, the coaching in here for this workshop and this series in particular is very much about, it's not about creating the idea from scratch. This is not like I don't have an idea and I need to figure out how to get one. This is, I have this thing and I've been sitting on it and it's here in my head and I haven't done anything with it and I've just been holding on to it, like sitting here staring at it, hope it works. That's what this is for. This is about moving that because it's in there and it annoys you and it annoys me because somebody needs it. So this is really about doing that thing you ought to do that will help your business, that is a growth thing, that would be super freaking fun. And that you're like, maybe someday, maybe kind of. I'd really like to. Like if I had $1 for every person that was like, I'd really like to do that. And then was just like, I'd be on an island, having lovely drinks. So this is really about, why isn't it just done already? Because that's really the trick. This is very much about simplifying both the starting of the process and the continuing, because both of those are problems, right? One of the issues is like getting over the first hurdle. It's like in the Indiana Jones movies where he steps out into space between like the caves and there's a walkway you can't see, an invisible one. It's that first step of faith that there's gonna be an invisible walkway. That's problem number one. Problem number two is once you start it and you're like, oh gosh, now what? Then there's 46 steps and you're feeling like it's complicated and you're not sure you're doing it right. And what if you don't do it right? And oh, hey, hold on. This is really about simplifying that, giving it structure, giving it form so that your brain can't, actually, I was talking to somebody about this yesterday. Have you ever read the little kid book, Toodle? It's like one of the little golden books. It's one of my kids' favorites. It's like really old and it's about this little train engine that instead it's supposed to stay on the tracks and follow its course. And instead of getting on the train tracks, what it does is go off and smell the flowers. And it like hops into the field and plays with the butterflies. And the older engines have to be like, dude, what are you doing? Like, we're not trying to be Toodle. We're not trying to take ourselves off the train tracks and go see the flowers all the time. We can do that because there's a place for flowers. But at the same time, it's like, look at the ones along the track. They're also pretty. Let's not just wander out into the field and be like, my son played soccer, holding hands with his friend, laying in the middle of the field. That wasn't his sport. The other thing before we go too far is this template came directly out of coaching. So it was very, very much about, oh, wait, I have to, hold on. I knew I saw another person. It didn't get pinged. Hi, Melissa, sorry, I didn't see it right away. It didn't tell me it was there.
No worries.
Haircut's so cute.
Thank you. Yesterday.
I love it. This is very much something that came directly out of coaching where a client said to me, like, I have this thing, I know I need to get it done, but I need some kind of structure. And so what we did together was make a structure. And then and at some point I was like, oh, this is a template. This is a thing. Right. And, after she used it and I've had some other people use it and everybody went like, oh, this is okay. Then it was like, oh, okay, this is the thing. So there's the starting and there's the continuing. That's the issue here. But the real question is like, what's in the way? I know if you sit back for a second and you think like, well, what's in the way? You could tell me the things. You know what's in the way. I have a short list. My guess is you have some other things on your list besides my things. But here are the things that go on my list. When I can't get something started or continuing, these are my reasons. And they are the ones I hear from people all the time. The first is that it feels just far too big. Like, you know, it's going to take you 20 hours of work and you don't have 20 hours today. And of course, it all has to be done right freaking now, because we are impatient business owner types. And you're like, well, but if I can't start it and finish it, then I can't start it. That's just crazy. That's problem number one. The second thing is sometimes it's like, okay, but there's 15 versions of this, and how do I pick one? Where do I start? Right? It's how do I do it right? Gets in the way. It's, you know, what's the first step? Sometimes I can remember, I'm a bit of a strange cookie in that I went and did a math degree after my master's. It's a long story, but a dear friend of mine was the one who was the geometry teacher for all the like high level geometry classes. And he used to laugh at me when I was taking tests because he's a jerk. He's also my business partner in my first business, so we've been friends a million years. And for me, some of the struggle in those classes, I always knew how to do all the steps, but I almost never grabbed the first one just out of thin air. It always felt like picking the first step out of the blue. And he'd be like, you know how to do this. He would be standing there next to me going, you know what to do. And I was like, but I don't know what to do first. And I would be so mad, and I'd be like stomping my feet like a child. He would be laughing. He thought it was the best. And then he'd be like, what about this thing? And I'd be like, oh, and off I'd go. Right? Sometimes it's just that first thing. Number 3 is my new favorite acronym, and it's called fear of follow through. Fear of follow through comes in 3 fun flavors. It's like Neapolitan, but not as nice. The first one is, what if I don't? Right? Because we are all like, okay, I want to do this, but what if I don't do it? What if I don't like make good on my promise to myself or to the people I told them I would do it, and then I don't, and then I feel embarrassed. Okay, that's problem number 1. Vanilla is, what if I do it and it doesn't work? What if these people I was going to do this thing and it flops? What if I do it out loud and then people are like, nope, that's trashy. Like, that's not worth it. And then the third one, the delicious chocolate flavor, is, what if I do it and it works and I have new problems to solve? And in fear of follow through, we're doing all of that at once. It's like an ice cream sundae of crazy, because it's like, I need to start. I'm feeling pressure to do it because I promised I would. I'm feeling pressure not to fail, and I'm feeling pressure not to have it go too well because I don't know what that would look like. Which is a mess, quite honestly, right? Like that's a big giant knot that we just tied ourselves into in 3 different ways. The next thing is waiting. God, I love to wait. I'll be like, Ray, it's not quite time yet. Like, when is that? When is the right time? Who's going to come knock on the door and be like, today is the day, Sarah? Like, well, this is my favorite flavor of this. I wait. I'll be like, oh, not quite yet. That is when I hear myself saying something like not quite yet in my head, it's now a flag to be like, ho. Because here's the thing, by the time we tell ourselves we're ready, we have been ready. I did a live in my group yesterday about raising your prices. If you are thinking all the time about raising your prices, it's been in past time, right? Like, it's already happened. You're already ready. And then the last thing that gets in the way, at least as far as I can tell, is time. Because what's happening is we're making something new. And in order to fit something new in, we have to have new time. And I can't just buy that at Target. I would, though. I would be like their first customer. We have to create space for this, or give something else up, or change the way we're doing something to create something new. And all of these things, you're like, no, I'm out. I'm good. I don't need to make anything new ever again. So here's what you're gonna tell me. Feel free to come on off the mute. Which is the biggest problem for you? What's the thing? Or is it like 4 out of 5? Feel free.
I was gonna say it's probably a combination of all of them. Like, when I just started doing my circles, it's like, do I do them? I don't know what I'm doing. I've never done this before, right? All that stuff. But then I talked to a couple people and they were interested. So it's like, okay, I'm just gonna go. I'm just gonna do it.
And look how well it's working. So well. Other thoughts? Don't be scared. I know all of you, so I will just make you talk to me, but I'm not mean yet.
I get very
sorry.
overwhelmed by the too big.
Mhm.
It's too big and I don't even know where to start.
Is it that you need too much time and there's too many things to manage? Right? Like, too big in what way?
I can do the brain dump. I can get the list. I can know how to get from A to B. And then I look at the list and I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like I'm frozen.
That's fair. Stace?
Sorry. I was thinking that like, what if it works out? And it's gonna be I know that's like at the heart of my thing. Although I also think like I always want to do it right. And so that like you research, you figure out all the 5 different million ways you can do something. Like right now I'm looking at something with Pinterest and it's like, but what if I mess it up? And it's like it just sits there then I'm waiting for the time to be like, Stacy, go do.
Well, and actually, you know what? It's like the research makes it worse, isn't it? In some ways.
Oh, it can be extremely paralyzing, which
Yes.
I have learned over the years, right, to rein that in for myself because some is helpful and most of it is just absolutely just feeds all of this stuff, not actually is creating action.
Well, it's like the Cheesecake Factory menu, right? Like I can't look at all the pages. I'll never eat. I'll be starved. I'll die. Like I like
Well, I got like 2 or 3 favorite things on that menu.
right, like I have to
Fair
look at
enough.
2 pages and then I can choose. And even then sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't have so many choices. Melissa, does one of these feel like you? A couple of them?
Yeah, I think it kind of depends. I was debating it's like, I was trying to decide what the one that's sort of top of mind right now. And I think it may be time, but time in a different way of like, am I creating a distraction of what I know? Like, is this really the right time to do this idea?
Mm,
Or should I stay focused on what I've said is the priority
mm.
and save this for a later day?
Well,
But
it's like
but
the
it's this
is
shiny
this,
object. It looks really cool and it looks really fun. So I think I want to go do it. So
well, it's like the is this a rabbit hole or is this on the track? Right? Like it's if I go do this, am I in the flowers or am I on the train track? And it's the judgment of that, right? Like
Yeah.
I get that. I have these thoughts, so I think we all do. Here's the thing. The other thing about this is like nobody doesn't have these. Right? There's no one, no matter what they do or don't do, what they create or don't create. If they tell you they don't ever think these things, they're lying. They're the same people that were like pregnancy was bliss. Like they're lying. This is lying. Just we can't be friends if we're not going to be honest about stuff, people. So like, this is always a part of it. But I think for me, the recognition of like, oh, now I'm waiting. Like, oh, go figure. This is part of my process. It's like my best friend from high school. When she used to drive us to the mall, she'd always take the wrong road. So we would joke that the way to the mall was to drive to the suburbs and then come back. Like we still make that joke and it's many years later, 30-ish. That's a lot. Okay. So here's the thing, like, let's do it like it's not today. I want it to go like this. So here's the real question. It's like, okay, now I'm gonna have a template and I'm gonna fix all that. Well, partly. Because here's the thing. Some of it is about ordering the stuff, is it not? Right? Some of it is giving structure to the chaos. It's not gonna make it the right time or not. But a template might help you go, oh, you know what, this doesn't fit with what I'm doing right now. Or it might, in the opposites view, help you go, oh, you know what, this is just like this other thing. These all go together. Sometimes the act of fleshing it all out and knowing what's what helps you to see it more clearly and go like, oh, hey, you know what, this is in line, or it's not in line, or actually this would make way more sense in September, right? Now I know the steps. Now I know it could work. Now I know what I was afraid of. And it's like, oh, all right. Is a template going to solve all your problems? No, friends. Just like that new planner wouldn't, right? Like, if the planner solved all the problems, we wouldn't have to buy more than one. But yet we all have 46. So that's just the way it is. This is a tool, not a silver bullet, right? But tools are helpful. Just like you try to build a house without a hammer, you can use your hands, but it's not going to be efficient, right? Then your hands are going to hurt. So we use hammers. It's fun. Okay. Today, what we're going to do is simplify starting. We're going to simplify follow through, and we're going to simplify getting to the selling part and where the people are in the game. Okay. This is about simplifying from A to B to C. It's about making the steps in between the idea and the people buying it and you getting to do what you do clearer. That's the goal of this. It's not like, where's my idea? It's like, I have this idea. I know it's a thing. Now what do I do with it? Right? You're holding it in your hand and you're like, I'm trying not to squish it. It's a beautiful butterfly. And also, now what? Right? Okay. The template is really built for breaking big into manageable. So this is where we're talking about Ashley. This is both about manageability and order, right? Because there is very much a distinct order to the way this is laid out. This is a very much also about creating a repeatable process so that eventually you can just think in this template and not need it, right? It's like my daughter asked me recently how I know to use the blinkers where they are in the car without looking for them. She's, 12 going on 13 and thinks she's grown now, ready to drive. That's a whole separate question. She's like, but how do you know where they are? Like, you just know, right? It becomes a reflex eventually. But this is something that would be nice to have as a reflex, right? Where you just went like, here are the steps. This is what I do. But it's really ultimately about getting it out of your brain onto the paper into the world. Because if it stays in here in your brain, you never get to help the people. And that is not okay. Because the idea is with you for a reason. It's meant to help people. It is not meant to be a secret for the rest of your life. That's just not it. That's not what it's for. Okay. So this whole thing has 4-ish stages. I say 4 because I have a 1 and a 1A. You know that I can't just have regular numbers like a normal person. The first stage is really the idea and just the like, here's what it is, here's why it is, here's how much it is, here's the things. Then there's some like, oh, before you go talk about it, let's make some decisions kind of stuff. Then there's like the talking about it stage, because you know how I feel about that, right? Like, we have to talk about the things. They are not just magical like that. I wish so much that they were, and I could just push a button and people would be like, here, we're here for your idea. But that's not it. Then people make the purchase, right? And people show up and do the thing. But at every stage, there are things to do. We all know this, but knowing what those things are helps our brain not to freak the heck out. Okay. What I will tell you is that this is both a linear process and completely not linear. There is no rule about the order in which you fill out the pages or the questions, friends. Please don't do that to yourself. If you're like, this first question is really hard, but I know the next one, go do that one, right? It's not a math test, but I'd tell you the same thing if you were taking a math test. If problem number 1, you're like, oh, heck no, go do number 2. And then number 3. And if you don't like number 5, leave it, come back to it. Sometimes as we answer other questions, things you're like, oh, now I know the title. I'm gonna tell you, the first thing in the template is the title. 100 times out of 100 times, it'll be the last thing I do. Honestly, I'll probably hand the rest of the template to somebody else and be like, make me a title. So that is not my strong suit. I like many words in a title, and they're like, it should be 3. And I'm like, it should be 33. That's just the way we do. So it is not meant to be a rule, right? Your brain is gonna be like, no, I have to fill these out one by one. Please don't do that. That's rude. Okay, let's go play with the template. So I'm gonna make it bigger. I'm gonna move this back over here. Yep, I'm super fun today, moving pictures and all the things around. Okay. You have a copy of this? Oh, Sarah. But so section 1 is about the idea. What is it? What are you gonna call it? Right? Who is it for? This is like name, rank, serial number stuff. You may or may not know them all, but this is the place where you decide them. Because here's the thing that happens. We're like, I don't know. I don't know when it starts. I don't know how long it will take. I don't know where it will be in the calendar and when. Guess what? You own the business. You just get to pick. That's how this works. So you're going to pick. And if you want to write in pencil and come back and be like, I pick different now, that's fine. But you pick. This is about putting something on the paper in whatever order it has to happen. Where will it be? When will it start? It's about calendar, but also location, duration, price, and access, and why. Okay, so this question is really, not necessarily name, rank, and serial number, but it's nothing you've ever answered before, right? This is not a new question. I didn't like magically apparate this. It is very much the what's in it for them, though. This is what are they going to walk away with? If you're a teacher writing a lesson plan, as I know a couple of you have done many, many, many times, this is students will be able to at the end of this lesson, right? This is your objective. This is what they're going to walk away with in their hot little hand, right? The reason they show up is this. Okay. Okay. Then there's the whole now I'm going to talk about this thing. I have this thing. I'm holding it in my hand. I know what it's called. I know how long it's going to last. I know what it looks like. I know why they're going to join it. And then it's like, okay, wait. Now I need to think about the machinery. This section is really about machinery. How long before it starts do you want to start talking about it? And it's not 2 days, guys. I know you know that, but it's also not like 22 weeks, right? It doesn't have to be forever. How often will you talk about it? This is where you make your deal with yourself, or maybe me. Because here's the place where you go to write down once a week and then think like, oh, I don't know if that's going to be enough, right? And then you're like, all right, maybe twice a week. And then you're like, oh, I don't know if that's going to be enough. And then you start to, reconcile. What's happening, Ashley? You okay?
I like making faces while you're talking.
Oh, me too. I'm always that participant where I'm like, where will you talk about it? All the places. And this is where you get to go like, oh, I have all these channels, because we forget that. We forget that it's like, oh, I can talk about my offer, to actual people that I meet. That's the one I always forget when people are like, oh, I had this one-on-one conversation. I'm like, oh, holy cow, I talked to somebody about it today. I made an offer to a human, right? Keep an actual people count. But it's like, where will you go? Will you do it at networking? Will you do it on TikTok? Will you talk about it in your Facebook group? Will you send it to your email list? Will you talk about it with your neighbor, right? Will you tell your husband and then he'll tell his friends? Is that how husbands work? I don't know. Maybe. And then what's the value? I know that we already asked this question, but this is just a slightly different version, right? And probably a slightly different answer. It's here a bunch of times. Because the more words you have, the better off you're going to be, right? There's never anything wrong with saying what's good about it in different ways. What might people be afraid of? What are the things why won't they say yes? Right? What are the problems? What might be getting in the way of them saying yes? Sometimes I think these are two different questions quite often. Why are they afraid to say yes? Is like, I'm afraid of change. I don't have the time. I'm not sure about the money, whatever those things are. What might be in the way is like finding time to sit down and do the thing. What might be in the way is like every time they see the post, they then immediately get in the car and drive a kid somewhere. Like it needs to be more efficient. They need to be reminded a bunch of different ways, right? What do they gain with joining you? Again, this is the same value question, but it's a different version of it. Yes, I know this is the third one. Yes, it's here for a reason. Because we're going to beat that unicorn. Okay. And then how will their time with you actually work? What it'll look like? What details do they need to know? Because, you know, it is nice. There is that analogy where it's like, okay, do you tell people about what they're going to see and feel and do when they're out on the whale watching tour? Or do you tell them about the boat? I do need to know it's a boat. I don't need to know what kind of engine it has, but I do need to know that you're not taking me on a kayak. Or on like a boogie board, because that's not gonna work for me, right? I do need to know it's a
If
bigger
there are
boat.
cocktails,
What?
you need to know if there are cocktails.
Correct, right? I need to know if there are snacks, honestly. Snacks are important. But if you're like, oh, I am gonna take you on a whale watching tour, we're gonna go in my kayak, and I'm like, oh, it's 4 hours, where's the bathroom? Like, I then have questions, right? So you don't need to be like, the boat is green, it has white lettering, the seats are red. You don't need to tell them all the things, but you do need to tell them some things. For this, I needed to tell you it was a workshop. I needed to tell you the date. I needed to tell you what came after. I didn't need to tell you what color the slides would be, right? I didn't know. Like, I just pick colors. I'm sure there's some branding person out there that's hating me. It's like, oh, she's all over the place, but she does what she wants. Okay. So this is about whys and hows and gains and what's in the way, but it's also like details, because the people need the details. You know the details you need to say yes. This is where you think about things you've said yes to and things you've been like, maybe that would be okay, but I don't really get how it works. You know, you've seen those things out in the world. My daughter is working with this new climbing coach who, honest to God, like, he's a really good guy. He's good at what he does. And every time I go to his website, I'm like, buddy, we gotta talk, right? Like, he's making it really, really hard to work with him on like a bunch of different levels. And I can't decide if he's doing it on purpose or he just has no idea. I think it's the second, but I really can't tell. In that, like, I do this for a living and I can't tell. So like, those are the kinds of things I think about. Like, how hard am I making for people to say yes? Okay, step one, A, right? Then there's a little like list you can make yourself. Like, what are the things you're gonna do before you talk about it? Create the graphics, change your website. I don't know. I tend to make a list of ways I can talk about it. Whatever it is you need to add to your list. Every one of my clients, every one of the people I work with that have done this puts different things on here. It's going to be different by different offer, right? It's like, what are the things you need to do, create, have in your hand before you go talk about it? And also, I would beg to tell you that you don't need to have anything in your hand before you go talk about it, but these are the things you're going to want. Or you're going to talk about, it and check them off as you go, right? Not having the graphic should stop nothing, friends. Nothing. Okay. Doesn't stop y'all here, but there are people that will watch this on recording that are they're the ones that are like, but I don't have the right picture yet. Doesn't matter. Doesn't even begin to matter. Okay. So now it's like, let's go talk about it. How do you want to keep track of talking about it? How do you want to keep track of this offer? And then what are the different ways you want to talk about it? So first it's like, I'm going to talk about it. Here's how I'm going to manage how I'm going to talk about it, because that's part of the deal. Our brains are really good at being like, I have this new scary thing. I talked about it once and now I'm going to go wait and hope people join, right? that's the trick. We're like, no, I feel like I was talking about it a lot. I cannot tell you how often people say to me, I've been talking about that quite a bit. And I'm like, all right, let's go count the posts. And they'll be like, I said it once. Twice. And you're like, right? It feels like more because we are thinking about it all the time. We're not actually saying it out loud necessarily. So it really matters that you have some sort of tool to keep you honest here, because your brain is going to think you're doing it much more often out loud than you actually are. And having some options for how to talk about it really matters. This is how to make this easier for you. I'm going to switch tabs for 1 second because I want to show you something. Again, don't stress about the tabs. I can't see what it's called. Yep. So for Selling for Weirdos, I sat down one day and I was like, what are all the different ways I can talk about this? Like, I want to make 90 offers. I think I got to 80, but it was literally 1 sentence at a time. Ashley's face. Stop. This is something I've been building for a long time. I know it pretty well, but it's like, it's very straightforward. If you want to learn to sell, it's for you if, it's for you if, it's for you if, it's for these people, it's for these people. It's like the same sentence starters over and over and over again, right? It's just different ends of the sentences. Hating selling isn't helpful if you aren't making sales. It's not helping you make sales. Hating the process isn't helping you. Of course, I can't spell. Hating the selling isn't helping you to make more sales. Yeah.
I love this, and it's making me think, I'm like, okay, I need to create something like this for my new like, okay, I need to create the 90 scary. How about maybe even 30?
No.
But
Well, but I would say is 90 was really scary for me too. But it really challenged me to be like, okay, it actually, every time I wrote the word and, I was like, nope, that's a new one. That was the best part. I was like, and then I was like, no, that's another one. I'm going to make that a discrete one. But it's like, here's what you'll learn. In Selling for Weirdos, you'll learn this, you'll learn this, you'll learn this, you'll learn this, you'll learn this. And they are often variations of the same thing. But having them all has been incredibly handy. Bellatrix agrees with me. See, she's on board. Bellatrix is the dog. I have a whole series of it's not for you if in here. That's another way to look at it. If you're looking for the perfect funnel landing page combo, we're not doing that. Right? Like if you're down with cold messaging to people, we're not doing that. So it's my favorite actually is like, it's not for you if you're not interested in actually talking to other people. like truth. So this has been really handy for me to have the language at my little fingertips. When my brain is like, I don't know what to say today. I'm like, girl, you got 90 of them. We are 81 of them. Just go use your list, you pain in the neck. And then I hop back. Okay. So any kind of list will help, but it's like, how does it work? How does it feel? What will they get? What are the problems? Who is it for? Who is it not for? What are the results? What are the results today? What are the results in a month? What are the results in a year? What are the results in 5 years? Even if they're with you a month, how could that make their life different in 5 years? Right? One round of your circle. You know, what really could change? And it is keeping all of that in a place that makes it easy for you to function. Okay. And then I made you a little grid so you could track it. Because, you know, I like a tracker, but like make your tracker however you want. Make my paper, don't. I don't care. But keep track because it matters. Okay. All right. Section 3. People buy stuff. You made this thing. You talked about it. People buy it. This is how it actually works. It's funny. Last week for Valentine's Day, I did like a go make a direct offer challenge. I had 2 people message me that night and be like, somebody bought something today. And I was like, no kidding. That's how that works. Like, okay. And one of them was like, she bought something that I didn't offer. Like, but still, that's how it works. Here's the thing though. our brains, just like we plan in the house in time, right? Our brains are often thinking further ahead than we are intentionally. So your brain is on the like, this is when the like, what if it works stuff comes up. It's like, okay, so somebody's gonna make a purchase and then what? Like what happens? What's next? Is there an email, a welcome, a reminder, something? What are the things that they're gonna get between making a purchase and starting? And when you go to write down the 16 things you want to do with them, then look at it and be like, how could this be simpler? Because it does not need to be a 16 email series. Okay, it doesn't need to have tools and things you're giving them. It just needs to be like, hi, welcome, let's get you oriented. How do you orient them? Maybe it's a video you send. Maybe it's mail. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe they don't need anything from you. Maybe you're like, they purchased and they have everything they need now. Done, done, done. Great. Based on what you see here, what do you need to create? Make a list, make a timeline, right? Like this is for you to be like, all right, these are the things I want to make. I want to make that welcome email. The email that you guys got today, this morning, with the template and the Zoom link in it, I wrote 2 weeks ago and just left in my Gmail drafts. Like I didn't do anything more special than that. The welcome email when you signed up has been sitting in my Gmail drafts. When I put this workshop together, I wrote those 2 emails, left them as drafts, and they'll live there. That's like it. That was the whole thing. There is a draft mostly written, not entirely, with the recording once it's there for later in the day. You'll get that later. But like, I didn't need to do more than that. After that, if y'all need me, you'll say so, right? The other thing is, you know, there is a them thing. It's like, what do they need to move forward? What do they get? What are the steps for the person who made a purchase? But also, what are your steps? What do you need ahead of working with these people? Do you need particular materials? Do you need planning time? Do you need some other kind of prep? What are the steps that you're going to take before you get in the room or in the Zoom or in the meeting or whatever it is? What are the prep pieces you need? Because actually, I think we forget this step. Right? We make all the emails, we do all the things, and then we're like, oh, I need to create those 3 things I'm going to teach them. Oh, well, if it's a workshop series or if it's something else, this is where this goes. It's like, here are I need to decide what the projects are. I need to decide what the questions I'm going to ask are, whatever it is. But you need a space for that because your brain is like, we're not ready, we're not ready, we're not ready, we didn't do our part. This is where you're like, brain, we made a list, we're good, we got it, it's under control. Okay, check them off as you go. And then this crazy thing happens. People show up. It's great. Also, before you run off to do the thing, your brain is like, oh my gosh, there are these 3 things I think we're going to forget. We're going to forget to tell them. We're going to forget to ask them this question. We're going to forget to bring this thing. What are those things you're worried about? Like, what are the little like naggy nonsense? Like when I was teaching, I was always worried that I'd get into a classroom and there would be no markers. So I was like a little expo marker hoarder, right? Because I was forever walking into, when it was college kids, like a random room. And so that was the thing before I left the house, I'd be like, do I have expo markers and do they work? Right. And then of course I always had expo markers. And at one point they were like, here's your classroom, it takes chalk. And I was like, chalk, guys, what are we doing? And then I was like, well, I'm completely underprepared today. So then the bag got expo markers and chalk because, well, that's what had to happen. But it's like, what are the things you worry about missing? Because you need a place for them. It doesn't, maybe there's not anything on it. You know what goes on here for me? Remembering to hit record, not my strong suit, right? That's the one that I'm always like terrified I'm going to forget. And then I get halfway through and I'm like, oh, Sarah, I've done it so many times. But like when I write stuff out, it's like, remember to record. I write it 19 places. What are the things you worry about? Right? Okay. Questions, thoughts, things. You're all like, don't ask me. I want to know. I can't talk to you anymore. We're not friends. Okay, that's fine. We don't have to be friends. All right. Right? It's a question. Well, I think there's, now what means two things, right? It means going to do. It means using the template in whatever format you want to use it and moving forward with it. Taking the first step is using your pen. Possibly the first step before that is printing it. Right? Like you got to do the thing. Remember that there's built-in support here, and honestly, like through March 1st, but like y'all are already involved in all the things. It's not like I'm gonna be like, no, it's March 2nd, go away. Like that's not gonna happen. Hit reply to the emails, ask all your questions, send me your template, say like, these are the things I wrote, these are the things I didn't write, like ask for review. We reply, like I'm always gonna reply. You have sent me emails before. We have communicated. This is how it works. Okay. Couple of reminders. This is a tool, not a rule. Right? Please do not decide to make it a rule for yourself. You are the boss. And as the boss, you get to make all the decisions, but also if you're like, this is starting to feel like something I don't want to do, you get to go like, tabled. Right? Unless it's like, this is starting to feel like something I don't want to do because I'm pretty sure it's really going to be amazing and work and help a lot of people, then we should not table it. Okay. Right? Then you're just scared. There are no bad questions. I tell you this all the time. I tell everybody this all the time. There just aren't. I know you think there are, and I know we all have the thought that we're bothering somebody when we ask all the questions, and that's not for you to decide. That's for me to decide. Okay? So don't be deciding things for me. It's rude. And doing is always better than waiting. Always. Like literally always. If we are doing, we are in the game. If we are waiting, we are on the sidelines, and it is basketball season, and basketball is important, friends. Right? Except my team sucks half the time. Enjoy that. They're great on Tuesday nights, and on Saturdays they're trashy. And so they're like 500 and I hate it. But we got to get in the game. So you have this idea that's floating around in here. It's time for it to go be something for someone. It can't just sit. Okay. All right. Now for real questions, things you need to know, things you want to say.
I'll just say that this circle thing that I started, that's the fastest I've ever done something, like thought of an idea and actually moved forward with it. And it does feel better to feel like you're making progress than thinking about it. It's a lot less energy.
Yeah. Well, and the time between having the idea and doing the thing isn't actually, it just gets heavier, right? The longer we wait, the bigger hit their confidence takes. So it's like sitting down deeper in the hole. It's like, have you ever had a friend that had one of those couches that the longer you sat in, the more you were pretty sure it was going to eat you? Right? Like my aunt and uncle had one. And you were like, if I don't get up from here soon, I may never come out. But it's that, like the longer you sit on it, the more worried you actually are that you're never going to get there. And that's not a great place to be. So shortening the process, lovely. And it's
And I
going
do like
great.
having the template of getting it out of your head, the little bits and pieces, because I think that's where the overwhelm can come in, because you feel like there's just too many moving parts. And when you write it down, sometimes there's not as many as you think. There's more in your head than there is on the paper. It's really weird.
Really weird, isn't it? You write them down, you're like, oh, there's only 3 things on my list. Like, crap. I do that sometimes, and I'm like, I have a lot to do, and I write them down, and I'm like, all right, well, those all together are going to take about 18 minutes, so I should just calm down, possibly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much. I got to run, Sarah. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye, Laura. See you
for
soon.
everything. Yeah.
Other questions, thoughts, things?
I have a question that could be a very long answer, so give me the short answer. So, okay, you made the comment at the very beginning and in all of your, sentences on your list that I've seen that sometimes you have 465 things that you want to get done. So
Yep.
I'm looking at this and like as you're talking, I'm thinking this project, this project, this project. So how do you take your list of 465 things and prioritize like one thing to just get done?
I would tell you this, I think you probably know, there's two parts. I think the first is you probably know which ideas are the strongest and the easiest to lift. Right? You're looking for strongest idea, easiest lift. And then the other part you're looking for is fun. So when you take this set of ideas and the overlap in the Venn diagram is strong idea, easy to get off the ground, fun for you, that's the one you start with. If there are 3 of those, print out 3 templates and just see what happens. Okay? Better? Okay. Other questions? But also fine. All right, you know all the places. I don't need to tell you all this. This is the Sarah's supposed to do something at the end of things and she forgets. So here's the thing. Start a template about something, send it, right? Let's talk about it. Let's play with it. Coaching is a part of this. So like take the thing that's been wandering around in there or all 3 of them, Miss Ashley, and let's pass them back and forth. This is what we're going to do. It is important to, I cannot begin to explain how magical even the smallest bit of progress is, right? That even just starting all of a sudden moves things in ways we don't expect. The difference is the starting, and this is about starting, okay? Other things you guys need, want. Okay, Melissa?
Nope, that was good.
Cool. I'm glad it's helpful. I didn't plan on showing you 90 ways to write something. So who knew that was going to come up? Or else it would have been on one different of the 500 tabs.
But I
Stace?
do think with your 90 things, if you took those 5-sentence structures, like it was sort of like, it's for you if, it's not for you if, it is, it includes, like to
Yeah.
those main triggers, I think that's a post that people would find value, say, okay, write as many
Right.
of these, but here
Yep.
are your sentence starters.
Yep, that's perfect.
Like a Mad Libs.
Brilliant. Way to go. Okay, that'll come out today or tomorrow. Well done.
Happy to give you a post idea.
Yeah, well, you should see the post-it notes on my desk. There's also a half a post. I wrote a post yesterday, you commented, Melissa, about I was in a group and it was like, what's the trick for? And I was like, oh no, that's not a thing. Like, sorry, friend. I wish it was. Stace.
I was just going to say that 90 days for selling is very helpful. I kind of reverse engineered that recently and took a program that I marketed, right, put out and all that kind of stuff. And then I pulled out the themes.
Mm-hmm.
So I looked at like, and I also find, and I'm sure everybody doing this stuff this is a Brighton, whatever, but I find that like my themes are always the same. So if it's for you, right, it's
Yep.
usually for similar people. Maybe there's a little bit different, what have you, but it's I was like, oh, if I did that, I think if I took what I already have, like, because I've already created like some content around like putting it all together so I can see it. So
Yep.
like, I think that would come really easily for me. And I'm like, oh, I like the idea of that 90 days or 90 ways or whatever. And then being able to like once you've gone from 0 to something, that is the hardest part for me, the 0 to something, the momentum.
Yep.
Once you get the momentum, like you said, then you start writing, you're like, oh, there's 4 things and what have you. And that kind of thing, then it just kind of leads to. So I think like even just having that, even if it was a different offer to help, like that would be a great fuel for me to look at and go, oh yeah, I know, blah, 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 blah. I think you'd even, Melissa, to your point, like be even faster the next time, like the second time you did it, or the third time you did it, or the fourth, right? You'd get like to your point, sorry, you wouldn't just need the template anymore. You'd be thinking that way in such a way. But I think we all have a lot of content. Well, I shouldn't speak, but I think
No,
there's a lot of
everybody's got a lot
content.
of content.
Oh,
This is a content.
So we got a
monster.
lot of content. We already are probably doing it. It's like this backwards of like, ooh, take your 5 most popular posts and see what you spoke to and start going from there. And then that can get you started if you're like, or if you're a little stumped to your point, Melissa, and you're like, I don't know, I can get 30, but I'm not sure I can get 90.
Well, and what I was just thinking as you were writing that, like I've been playing with my best friend ChatGPT a lot around ideas, and what was going through my head is if I took those, if I put in my program and all the information about it and a couple of the posts I've been writing about it, I wonder if I back also into the 90 things. If I said,
That's a
here's
great
6
idea.
prompts, based on all this content, I could probably come up with, as you said, but I wonder what else it would come up with.
Yeah.
It's a great idea.
Well, and I will tell you, some of that came out of, I went to the sales page for Selling for Weirdos and just went section by section. It was like, this is for you if, this is for you if, this is for you if, this is for, and I just pulled. Cause it's all in here already. It's in your head. It's in your
Yeah.
heart. It's in your stuff. You've written other programs. You've written other sales pages. It's all happened. And like, go steal the best bits. Let's collect them. And
Well, I
use them.
also wonder if it also goes into how you create your sales page is like you did it the verse, you created those, but for somebody who hasn't created the sales page yet, I wonder if that framework is, your guiding principles. I need to have 3 of each of these topics that get woven into my sales page.
Right? Well, that's exactly right. But it's like, this is how I talk about it. And then if that's how I'm talking about it and they come to the sales page and it's the same, it's like, oh, continuity all of a sudden. And then we're rolling. Yes. All right, friends. I expect to see you in my email. Okay. Don't be, y'all are all people I can stalk. So, and if you're watching that recording, you're also there. So I'm not afraid. Don't feel like, I shall be hearing from you. If you need me, you know where I am. Saturday, I'm in a rock climbing competition. The rest of the time I'm here in my house. May the force be with you and the weather get warmer and spring be soon.
Always.
She's like, makes my fingers do it. I'll see you all soon. Thanks for coming. It's a treat.